Welcome everybody to Fantasy and Frames Dynasty 365. I am Stacy Perez. I am joined tonight by Tyler Howell and our boss man here at Fantasy and Frames, Jorge Edwards. Guys, I am no longer gallivanting in Europe. I am back. I'm ready to talk some football. It's week 10 or week. Is it week 10? Is it week 11? I don't even know. I've been gone too long. Either way, let's do it. All right, guys, we are back. We are here tonight with you Wednesday night. We are ready to talk some football. Before we get started, just a reminder, put your questions, comments, anything you got for us, throw it on in the chat. We will get to all of your questions tonight before we go. But before we get started talking some football, we have got something to take care of. Tyler, you're going to have to pay the piper here, buddy. You lost a bet to Jorge. Jorge, tell us what awaits Tyler as his punishment.
So just to give everybody the backstory here who missed it a couple weeks ago, Tyler and I are in the Dawson divisions of the Kings Classic fantasy football tournament that gets it's organized by Bob Long. It happens the weekend after the Hall of Fame game. Coincidentally, it coincides with the Fantasy Football Expo. Biggest analysts in fantasy football compete in the Kings Classic, and they have various divisions. And so we're in the Len Dawson division. And him and I, a couple weeks ago, were taking on each other both in a snake and an auction league within the Dawson division. And so we made a bet stating, all right, whoever's team loses gets a pie in the face. But if, for example, Tyler's teams beat both of my teams, and I would have to take 2 pies in the face, to which Tyler's like, well, that's exactly what's going to happen. So let's make this bet. Let's do this. And then coincidentally, both of his teams have lost. So that means now Tyler, because he wussed out of it last week, has to take 2 pies in the face right now, right here on Dynasty 365. And seeing as how this is the first time a pie bet has happened on Dynasty 365, I think we should get everybody from the Dynasty 365 crew, including Gator J behind the glass. Gator, why don't you come on screen and let's witness some epic pie bet history right now.
Yes, Tyler, tell us who we have assisting us tonight with putting these pies in your face.
We have Gavin and Joanna are gonna do the first pie for me. So go ahead and do it.
Give him a good pie in the face, guys. Like you mean it.
Do it hard.
Yeah, go for it.
Every time he's put you in
Go for it.
There you go.
Oh, the second time was so vicious. Oh.
It's still good.
It's 5-second rule. It's fine.
It's 5-second rule.
Oh,
Here goes a good one.
Tyler Wilson. Oh, yeah.
yeah, get it in there. Get it all in there. Yeah. Nicely done, Chelsea. Yes.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
There you go.
We should have required whipped cream on this.
Oh, I know. Exactly.
It's okay. It's
Have some
okay.
whipped cream on there. What good core memories, Tyler, for your kids the night they got to pie dad in the face on YouTube?
Fucking pie everywhere.
The best part is
Imagine.
that Gavin hits you the first time, and then it was kind of like anticlimactic, and then boom, and the second time around, oh.
I was not expecting that.
That was
The phone call tomorrow, Tyler calling into work. I'm sorry, my house is full of pie. I've got to clean up the pie.
go to work. I can't go to work. I've been pied in the face.
Love it.
That is
Oh my
awesome.
gosh.
Great job. Give Gavin, Joanna, and Chelsea a big round of applause. That was awesome. Thank you so much for letting me be involved in that. That was good, Tyler. Next time I want to be on the winning side of the bet for Tyler as well.
Thank you.
We can make this a new segment. Towards Pie in the Face before every show. Albert, we see you in the chat. Hello, my friend. Guys, I want to know, what was your favorite part of this past NFL week? Jorge, you're up.
Just the myth of Josh Dobbs just growing and growing wherever he plays football. You tell me if you heard this before. He went to school for rocket science. He's a smart person. And it's like, oh yeah, that's great. Well, this is a school. This is the NFL. This is football. Like, I'm sorry, but like part of me wonders, like, it would have to take a rocket scientist to bounce around to as many teams as he's had this year. Master the offenses. And just after last week, it was like, oh my God, that was like a 1 in a million performance, and then, in week 10, and then you come back in week 11 and you saw what he did. Just fantastic. That was the highlight for me for week 11.
I agree. Huge. This is a Josh Dobbs fan show for sure. Preston, we see you in the chat. Preston, you got a pie in the face not that long ago. If you guys didn't see that was on our pregame show. Was that last week or the week? That was the week before last when Preston took the pumpkin. Did he get pumpkin pie too? I think he did sweet potato pie to the face. So that's what we like to do here on Fantasy and Frames. Is pie everybody in the face. Pies everywhere. It's the season. 'Tis the season. Tyler, what was your favorite moment of last week?
Sorry, I'm getting pie out of my eye.
Little pie in the eye.
My favorite moment was, as a Browns fan, just the ending of that Browns-Ravens game. You watched the whole game, and I mean, it was just disheartening. They immediately went down 14-0. Then Deshaun completed like one pass in the first half or something ridiculous like that. And then the second half, he went like 12 for 12 and just absolutely killed it. And they didn't lead. They led for 0 seconds in that game. And they won. So that was a lot of fun, just actually seeing the Browns finally, for once, pulling out a game like that rather than always losing it.
Well, I hope you hold on to that joy and it keeps you warm through the winter, because you may not have too much of that pretty soon.
Well, if I don't, I have pumpkin pie.
There you go.
Well, not here, not those pumpkin pies. But,
my favorite part of last week was finally getting to sit down and watch football again. I was gone for 2 weeks on vacation, and I was on a cruise, so I couldn't watch football. I did get it one time for just a little bit. I was able to see some of the Baltimore Seahawks game, which was pretty awful. So I didn't even get to see good football while I was gone. So just kind of coming back and getting into my routine and watching the games on Sunday was just really, really nice. All right, guys. So I want to talk a little bit of boom bust from this past week. I want to know who stock took a jump, whose dynasty value shot up a little bit, and who's kind of took a little bit of a dip. So Jorge, boss man.
Yeah. So you'll have an appreciation kind of for this. It's like a 50-50 appreciation split here. The boom in dynasty value, I think, was Jayden Reed of the Green Bay Packers. Not just last week. Let's go back the past 3 weeks. He leads all wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers in targets, in yards per game, in fantasy points per game. You look at all the different metrics, yards after the catch, like just a complete playmaker on this offense. I truly believe he is the wide receiver who has been emerging this season for the Green Bay Packers, and he is definitely somebody that if he's available on waivers, which I hope you picked him up after I wrote about him yesterday, and you all check that out over at fantasyandframes.com. If for some reason he's still available, pick him up. Or if you have obviously for dynasty leagues, try and see what you can get for him, because I don't think the word is yet too much yet, just because everybody's still associating name value of Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs not a lot of talk around Jayden Reed, and I don't think he's gained so much popularity and notoriety that people are like, oh, Jayden Reed, well, I'm going to hold on to this guy. I'm like, well, you better do it now and get him for relatively cheap costs before he really starts to take off. And I think it's only a matter of time before you start seeing him take off in performances.
Packer fans know about Jayden Reed. Who is your bust, and why are you beating up on my Packers?
I told you it was going to be a 50-50 split here. Look, it's AJ Dillon. Like, this guy can't catch a break here. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon were supposed to be this great tandem that the Packers are supposed to rely on. You look at the attempts, the first 3 weeks of the season, 13, 15, 11. In half PPR, that was 4.6, 6.8, 3.3. You finally started to see some volume in weeks 5 and 7 with 20 attempts and 15 attempts. And okay, that got you 13 and 10 points. Okay, but not the volume, not the fantasy point production that we've been seeing in previous seasons with AJ Dillon when he got the high rushing attempts. And now Aaron Jones is back, and it's back to 6, 9 attempts, 7.7 points, 4.8, 8.6. Like, at this point, I probably have been one of those managers who's been the most bullish on AJ Dillon, just holding out hope that it's only a matter of time before that streak happens where he goes on a hot streak like he has been for the past 3 seasons. I'm out. I'm done. And I just think, I'm trying to get what I can for him. But his value is depreciating very much so right now.
Yeah, I feel the same. And I mean, like, is there any reason why you can think of that he just hasn't really produced like everybody thought that he would? Because I'm still kind of at a loss. Like, I can't really figure out what's going on there.
Well, there's obvious hits on the on the offensive line. They've been losing, having some injuries there. But more so, it's one of those things where, Aaron Jones has missed a bunch of time this season, and he's been basically their only running back option. And you throw in the fact that, Jordan Love has progressively, as the season has gone on, has played worse and worse. At the end of the day, the opposing defenses, they know what's coming, and they're going to stop them. They're going to shut them down. You look back to this past week against Pittsburgh, 7.8 yards per carry average on just 9 attempts. He hasn't come close to getting that yards per carry average. We go back to the week 7, 8, 9, 4.1, 1.8, 4.4. Just okay, but not like anything great. And it's a shame because we were hoping that this was going to be a 1-2 punch here, and it just has not turned out to be the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, we see Nate over here in the chat. Hola, Nate is in Cancun right now. Nate, you should be on a beach drinking right now, but we appreciate you checking in on the show and hanging out. Tyler, sorry, Jorge.
No, I said I bet you he is, and he just has his phone open or YouTube open on his phone right now. If I had to guess anything.
What true professional, Nate, just on vacation, but still finding time for us here. Tyler, have you gotten all the pumpkin pie out of your face yet?
I don't know if I'm ever going to get all the pumpkin pie out of my face, but for the most part, I think I'm good.
Well, you're up. Who is your boom and who is your bust?
So he was already mentioned once, but Joshua Dobbs is my boom. He's very clearly gained some value, and I think it's short-term and long-term value. He's going to be the starter, obviously, for the rest of the season for the Vikings. He's performed well for 2 teams so far this year. And I mean, everyone knows about the first week with the Vikings, but he's gained real dynasty value. And speaking of our good friend Nate Markham in our Fantasy and Frames Dynasty League, he recently just traded me his 2025 second round pick and Cedric Tillman for Josh Dobbs. So he's actually getting value right now, and I think he deserves it. He's, like I said, he's going to be starter the rest of the way. He could very well get a bridge starter contract. Teams I listed for potential landing spots for next year: Jets, Patriots, Raiders, Giants, Rams, depending on Stafford's health, I really never know with him. I'd say Cardinals, but they already launched him to the moon like NASA. See what I did there? Packers could be a potential spot for him if they want to bring in some competition for Jordan Love. He could just stick with the Vikings, and he could also go to the Falcons and give them some actual quarterback play. So there's a good list of team that he could start for, and if not, he's going to be a premium backup. So I really like how much value Josh Dobbs has gained in the past month.
How many picks do you have in our Dynasty League right now?
In 2024, I had 11.
What rounds are they in?
First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
Wow.
So it's just going to be the Tyler draft in 2024, basically.
Very excited. As long as Jorge didn't beat me to the bottom in the league and take Caleb Williams.
My first round pick actually belongs to Jonathan Klanowski, so he's actually the one who has the upside there.
And I was very sad that I couldn't get your first round pick when you traded me. What was it, Jahan Dotson and a first for Christian Kirk earlier in the season?
It was Pickens. Was it Dotson or Pickens that traded you, and I got Kenneth Walker in return? I forget what it was.
Pickens, a second and a third was the Kenneth Walker deal.
There you go. That's what it is.
And Jahan and the first were the Christian Kirk deal.
I like how we've kept referring to him as Jahan and just refused to call him by his true name.
It's way more fun.
Exactly. Tyler, I think you have my first round pick too via Jorge.
I also have Gator's first round pick.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Guys, what are we doing? Letting Tyler get this many picks. Tyler, defend your Browns trading Josh Dobbs to the Cardinals.
Okay. So we kind of had this discussion prior to the show, and you guys were kind of needling me because, of course, it's the easy thing to do. It's the low-hanging fruit. And I said calling out the Browns for that is lazy, in my opinion. He was on the roster. They knew he was a helpful and good quarterback. They had him on the roster last season. They spent a fifth-round pick on Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA. DTR, as he's referred to in Cleveland and probably anywhere he's played. He showed out in the preseason. He had great practices. He had great games. And that's how you want to build a roster. You don't want to have to go out and get a guy like Chase Daniel or a Case Keenum or a Jacoby Brissett and have to pay your backup quarterback $7, $8, $9, $10 million. Those are $10 million is two starters. Like, you can afford two starters for that cost. So ideally, if you can have a fifth-round rookie that's cost controlled for 4 years, that's how you want to build a team. And when you have a quarterback that has a $63 million cap hit in 2024, it's even more how you want to build your team. So I completely understand why the Browns made the decision to trade Josh Dobbs. If you had an asset that could net you a fifth-round pick, then why not? And you had a fifth-round rookie that was already going to be your backup. So it makes sense to me. Sure. Would I rather have Josh Dobbs to be the Browns quarterback right now? Yeah, of course. I'd be stupid to say I wouldn't. But I understand the thinking behind it, and team building wise and roster construction, it makes total sense to me.
Well, I guess they did something right there in Cleveland for once. Yeah.
Doing more right than the Packers are, that's for sure.
Woo!
As long as you're staying with my Commanders, I'm all for this debate back and forth. So you two have at it.
Well, hey, if you want to run a team with no pass rushers, yeah, sure, let's get rid of them.
We're doing the Tyler Heil approach. We're accumulating draft picks. That's what we're doing.
Fair enough.
Tyler, who's your bust?
My bust is, and I don't want it misconstrued because he had a good week. He had a long touchdown. But it's Rachaad White. He has been very disappointing this year. He's flat out been bad. The Bucs line is fine. Like I don't think it's a huge liability, but it's also not a huge strength for them. So I don't really think he can fall back on that. Baker Mayfield's been good. The passing game has been good. So why can't the run game get going? And I'll tell you why. It's because Rachaad White is awful in every efficiency metric that you can find. He has 3.3 yards per carry on the year. He's 57th in the NFL in broken tackles per attempt. He doesn't have a single rush on the year of 20 or greater yards. He's also 59th in the NFL of rushes of in 10+ yard rush rate. So percentage of his attempts that end up in a 10+ yard game. So he's flat out, he has not been good. And there is no number that you can find to tell me that he's been good. 3rd round picks are easily replaceable, especially when they don't have anything to point to that makes them exceptional. And this year was a bridge year for the Bucs. Like you can listen to whatever they say all you want. You can listen to all the coach speak. They ate a shit ton of dead cap this year to try to get over the Brady hangover from all the players that they're paying. And they're going to come into 2024 with 0 dead cap, and they're going to go for it. So that tells me that Rachaad White is not long for being fantasy productive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So let me ask you this. This is just something I just randomly thought of. When is it Sean Tucker time? Or is it going to be Sean Tucker
It's
time?
not. I mean, Rachaad White's been fine this year for fantasy-wise. He's been actually very productive, which is why he is your sell right now. I think you could get a pretty high pick for him because a contending team could really use him. But his future value just isn't there. But he is still the best running back on the team. I'm not going to say he's good, but he's better than Sean Tucker and Chase Edmonds.
So just to be clear for people listening, the number 12 in half PPR scoring running back, Rachaad White, averaging 12.8 yards per game, is a sell right now because of his fantasy performance. What you could expect in return for him is based off of his fantasy performance, which is why you can ask for something high. But in terms of his actual efficiency metrics as being an actual running back in the NFL, you're saying that the long-term prospects are not good for him just because he could be easily replaceable in that regard?
Correct. His short-term value is what you want to capitalize on right now, because I think realistically, if you're talking to a contending team, you might be able to talk them into a late first-round pick for Rachaad White because he's the top 10 running back right now. Flat out, he's producing. So why wouldn't you sell someone at their peak value? I don't believe that he will get more valuable than he is right now. That is just going to depreciate immediately after the season. So that's what we're trying to do in Dynasty. We're always trying to capitalize on peak value and finding value where you can and just churning your roster and churning those picks and trying to make your team better constantly.
Ooh, Gator's coming in.
Gator's salty. Gator, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Gator J. His team is craptacular, yet he will be so, gung ho about them. Will not. He's not he's not what you call a rational fan. He's very like, that's it. I'm just gonna say what I'm gonna say about my team. I'm gonna be 100% ignoring all the negative, and I'm just like, come on, man. He's nodding in the background for those who can't see on screen. He's like, absolutely. But,
we call him Gator. His team worships the scum of the earth and Urban Meyer. Where are we at?
Whoa.
on screen.
Woo, you crossed the line. Cross the line, Tyler. Those Gator fans get upset when you talk about Urban Meyer.
What did Chris B say in the chat here? He's a Florida fan. He's used to punishment. Wow.
This is true. All right, my turn. So my boom is going to be, and I broke the rules here. I'm taking the entire Houston Texans offense. Every single one of them. This was probably the game that I was most excited to watch them play the Bengals this week, and it did not disappoint at all. Texans had 3 pass catchers that were fantasy relevant. Tank Dell, obviously my favorite, my beloved Tank Dell, 35% of the target share, 56 yards and a touchdown. I think he had 14 targets, guys, 14. Noah Brown had 7 receptions, 172 yards. Guys, if you picked him up on waivers this week or last week, make sure to monitor. He's got a knee injury that popped up on the injury report this week, so make sure to take a look at that, especially if Nico Collins doesn't play. And then don't forget about the ghost of Devin Singletary showing up for 150 yards and a touchdown. Dalton Schultz produced. CJ Stroud threw for 356 yards with a touchdown, and he ran for 1 too. So they are going to be my boom for this week. And then before we get to my bust, actually, I wanted to ask you guys this because I've been hearing a lot of talk on all the shows and on Twitter and everything this week so far. Has CJ Stroud done enough to be in consideration for not just Rookie of the Year MVP, or Rookie of the Year, but MVP, just MVP? Like, has his numbers put him in consideration for that? Who wants to go first?
Short answer is no.
Okay.
He's been fantastic. He is the runaway offensive rookie of the year. Even before this last week, I looked at the offensive rookie of the year odds. His odds were minus 500 to win, which is absolutely absurd on an end of season award. He's been fantastic. If he has another month and a half, like he's had the last 2 weeks, then we can start talking about MVP consideration. Then I'm willing to have that conversation. But right now, I simply cannot put him into the same conversation as people like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes.
If he leads the Texans to the AFC Championship by some fashion, and he keeps up the productivity he's had, I think he's firmly in the MVP discussion. But it would take the winning has to happen. It's not just a stat-based, award. It's about the value you bring to your team to help you win. So, like I said, if they keep winning and he gets far in the playoffs, he's definitely at that point going to be a consideration.
Yeah, a lot of what ifs. He can certainly get there. He absolutely can get there with the way he's performed in the last 2 weeks and the teams he's beaten. But he's just not there yet.
So their next 4 teams that they're playing against are this week Arizona, and then Jacksonville, then Denver, and then the Jets. So
if they can pull out a win against Jacksonville, and even Denver's playing decently right now, then we can talk. But hell, before he had his game against that comeback win against Tampa, they put up 13 points and lost to the Carolina Panthers. Like, come on.
You mentioned the Jets there. Let me tell you, if he balls out against the Jets, who have held every high-profile quarterback to abysmal numbers statistically, if he can go out and perform well against them, I think that discussion about MVP happens a little bit sooner than it happens later.
Oh. That's. I mean, he's just been so much fun. The whole offense has been so much fun to watch. I don't think anybody thought that they were going to be, be anywhere close to what they've done so far this year. So good things in Houston. My bust, things that are not good. Christian Watson from my Packers. His only fantasy relevant week came in week 5, where he had 3 receptions for 91 yards, no touchdowns. In the last 4 weeks, he has only seen 20% of his target share twice. And in those 2 games, he managed to accumulate a total of 56 yards and 0 touchdowns. So that's terrible. He is the wide receiver 86, according to Fantasy Pros this season. Our Fantasy and Frames consensus Dynasty ranking before the season started was wide receiver 22. That's a huge difference. The Packers receiver. No, it's terrible. Yeah, it's definitely going to be going down after this year. Packers receiver that you want. We talked about him earlier. Jayden Reed. It's not Watson. Reed's averaging 10.8 PPR points per game compared to Watson's 7 points per game. It's not even flex worthy. So sorry, Christian Watson, but so far so far you've been a bust, buddy. So why don't we move on and talk about a little bit of our dynasty buy sells. All right, guys. So this is where we're going to talk about either a rookie, second year, third year, guys that we are talking about whether their value is where you can try to, sell them right now, or whether you should be looking to acquire them for your team. Jorge, you're up.
So with the news of the New York Jets releasing running back Michael Carter, I am running to whatever dynasty league I'm in and trying to get Israel Abanikanda for the New York Jets. You look at his time in Pittsburgh in 2022. We look at all the running backs who were draft eligible in the Power 5 conferences. In terms of elusiveness, he was the RB22 breakaway percentage, RB8, rushes of 10 yards or more, RB6. I mean, this guy has got speed. He's got good vision. He is a bona fide freak athlete. One of our analysts, when we were covering, Israel Abanikanda earlier in the spring on Dynasty 365, brought up, look, you know how DK Metcalf is like a freak athletic specimen and plays wide receiver, but also plays wide receiver very well? This is Israel Abanikanda, except he's a freak athlete who plays running back, who is a very good running back when given the opportunity. We saw in the preseason him show flashes of really great play. He had a knee injury, though. I want to say it was the second preseason game that held him out for some time. I'm telling you right now, folks, if you can go and acquire Israel Abanikanda, do it now, because this is going to be the 1-2 punch you want for the New York Jets. Screw Dalvin Cook. That experiment has been long over with. Breece Hall, Israel Abanikanda, this is the tandem you want for fantasy. It's going to happen. You trust the talent, you trust the productivity. So I'm definitely going out there and I'm trying to get all the Izzy shares as I can.
Yes, I have, and this is not necessarily Dynasty, but when I was doing best ball over the season, he was like one of the last guys I would take in several different places, and I've had to be a little patient, but I'm really excited because I think it might pay off now finally. Who's your sell?
So my sell is Najee Harris, and thank God, the past 2 weeks or past 3 out of 4 weeks, he has been somewhat fantasy successful. We look back in week 7, 14 for 53, but he got you a touchdown. Okay, well, the touchdown saved him there. You go back to week 9 versus Tennessee, 16 attempts for 69 yards and a touchdown, 4.3 yards per carry. Okay, great. But this past week, week 10 versus Green Bay, 16 attempts, 82 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, a touchdown. This is probably peak Najee Harris time right now. And so if I can get anybody who's, a contender who's desperate to get that last piece at the running back position to kind of fill in a void, whether it's as an RB2 or as a flex, I want to fleece this person with draft capital and basically ride the coattails of this past week's performance, because this is the time to do it, because you never know when he's going to go from, a 16 attempt day to what he had in week 8, which was a 7, and not to mention Jaylen Warren being listed now as the starting running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even more reason to move him. Capitalize on the performance and get as much as you can for him.
Is Jaylen Warren the best running back on that team?
Oh, Tyler's face. Tyler says no. Look at that face.
No. My face says, of course he is. He has been for 2 years. He's
down. Yeah, I agree with Tyler. I don't even think it's a question. He's versatile in the receiving game. He's versatile running the ball. He's elusive as hell. Najee has always been a product of volume. Jaylen Warren is showing that he doesn't need a lot of volume to be a playmaker. And the fact that now he is going to be getting that added volume and reps because he's been named a starter. It's Jaylen Warren to the moon, as the kids say.
0 RB drafters rejoice. Tyler, you're up.
All right. So my buys are more focused on peak value, or I guess what's the opposite of peak value? Lowest value? I don't know.
Value. I don't know. That's a good word.
So my buy is T. Higgins. He's been he's not had a good year. And unfortunately, it's a contract year for him. I guess the vibes right now tell me that he will likely not be back in Cincinnati next year. But that's just the vibes. You never know. They could change. T. Higgins is a good wide receiver, and he's had a unfortunate year. He came into the league. He's finished as the wide receiver 30, 22, and 17 in half PPR in his first 3 seasons in the league. He's good. He can maybe be a wide receiver 1 somewhere. He can definitely be a super wide receiver 2 like he is in Cincinnati. My mind actually immediately went to T. Higgins in Dallas. I think that would be very, very appetizing for fantasy output and for football success. So T. Higgins, I would think he would still probably cost you a late first if you have them, but I will pay it. I think it's going to pay off. He's going to have 5 more seasons of mid to back end wide receiver 2 numbers, and that's invaluable on a dynasty team where you can just set it and forget it as your wide receiver 2.
Who's your sell? Too much pumpkin. It got down in the wrong
I
way.
got some out of my eyebrows. There's still some in there, and my dog has been in here. She's gone now. She ate all there was to eat off the floor. So thank you, Chiva, for cleaning some of that up. So my sell is Keenan Allen, who's absolutely killing it right now. He's been really, 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 really good. And unfortunately, Keenan Allen has been really, 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 really good for a long time. He's going to be 32 years old before the next NFL draft. His game was kind of always going to age well. That's the kind of player he was. He never relied on uber athleticism and jumping over guys. He's just a really freaking good football player. And it's showing, he's 31 years old and he's still out there putting up wide receiver 1 performances. Actually, since week 1, these are his finishes in half PPR. Wide receiver 25, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 28, wide receiver 5, 41, 34, 16, and 1. So this is kind of your reminder and your logistical reminder to take a step back, look at your roster, really take a hard look at your roster. Are you a competitor? Are you kind of just sitting in the middle? Because if you're sitting in the middle and you're hoping and praying to slide into the playoffs and crossing your fingers that Keenan Allen keeps producing at the level that he is and the rest of your team makes it work, like, take a step back, realize that you can get a first-round pick for Keenan Allen and look toward next year and try to fill that spot on your team with the first-round pick. It can be hard to sell a guy who's performing at that level for less than you think he's worth. But when he's 31 years old, going on 32, if you want to get out, now's your time to get out. And now's your time to sell Keenan Allen. But if you're a competitor, hell, hang on to him, let him win you the league.
There you go. All right, so my buy this week is, and this really had a lot to do with his performance this past week against the Saints, is going to be Ty Chandler from the Vikings. Guys, he put up, 45 yards and a touchdown against the Saints, who give up the 4th fewest fantasy points to the running back position. Also has a lot to do with Alexander Madison being in concussion protocol as well as of today. I just saw the latest update just a little bit before we got started tonight, saying still in protocol. So not sure if he's even going to be playing on Sunday. Chandler's the only other running back on the depth chart other than Kenny, whose last name I can't pronounce, and not going to attempt.
Nwenwu.
What?
Nwenwu.
Yeah, what Tyler said. So, obviously if Madison can't go, Chandler should be the guy. They are traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos, who are giving up. Do you guys know how many points they're giving up to opposing teams' running backs just off the top of your head? Don't look at the show sheet.
Denver, I don't know, 28.
Ooh.
22.
20. It's almost 30. It's almost 30 points. They are the worst in the league, even worse than the Panthers. So if you can get a hold of some Tyson Chandler, I don't know if his name is Tyson Chandler. I just really want to call him Tyson Chandler. Ty Chandler is his name. Ty Chandler.
It's just Ty.
Well, who knows? Who's to say? If you can get a hold of him, you absolutely should. In your dynasty league, he's probably already drafted. But if you have a chance to go get him off waivers in your redraft, I would definitely do that too if you can.
Tykevius.
Huh? What'd you say?
Tykevius Chandler. Tykevius.
Tykevius?
You're welcome.
Oh, wow. Tykevius Chandler.
Thinking like Tyson or
I like
yeah.
Wow. I stick with Ty. Stick with Ty Chandler there, bud. All right, myself. I'm gonna keep this short. I'm gonna keep it sweet, guys. George Pickens, man. It has been a rough last 3 weeks for him. In total, of the last 3 weeks, he has had five receptions for 66 yards. Week 9, he had -1 yards. How do you even do that? -1 yards. Nothing else needs to be said. Straight to jail. George Pickens with you. Sell at this point. That's it. That's all I got to say about Pickens. Gator, where's our crystal ball? All right, time to play fortune teller and give me one player who's due for a big week this week. Jorge, you're up.
Man, so if I had to go with one player, I think Antonio Gibson. You look at the past few weeks, both he and Brian Robinson are actually like leading the team in yards after the catch, yards after the catch for reception. We're looking at the efficiency metrics of yards per carry. Both Gibson and Robinson are doing very well. Both are rounding out into top form, but Antonio Gibson, he's finally being utilized with Sam Howell throwing the ball like a bazillion times a game for a bazillion yards a game. Those are accurate stats you can find over on Pro Football Focus, just in case you were wondering. He is becoming that weapon in the receiving game that we were all hoping he would be recently. And I think he, for dynasty purposes, is somebody that you want to be sending out those trade offers for right now before this week against the New York Giants. This should be an easier matchup, so to speak. In any game going forward, Antonio Gibson, I don't know. I think he has like that league-winning upside going forward just because of the passing volume with Washington and just how efficient he's been on the ground and in the air. So I'm expecting a big week out of AG.
Nice. Tyler, who's coming up in your crystal ball?
So I'll censor it, but the show sheet says F it Noah Brown. He's legitimately been incredible the past few weeks. He's been really, really, really good. And you haven't really paid attention to his status because, he's Noah Brown. He's been on the Cowboys for damn near a decade and hasn't done anything. And then he goes to the Texans. He played 68% of snaps week 1. He got 4 targets. He injured his groin. He went on IR. He came back in week 6. He got 5 targets, 50% of the snaps, and a bye week. So I think he was still getting healthy there. After the bye week, he comes back healthy, finished wide receiver 56, then he finishes as the wide receiver 2 overall, and then the wide receiver 7 overall. Among receivers with greater than 20 receptions, he's first in yards per reception in the NFL with 20.9. He's first, and they're not all air yards either. He's first in yards after catch per reception with 9.1. While we're talking about the Texans, I noticed Nico Collins was actually third in the NFL in that stat. So before we found out that Noah Brown did not practice today, he was my prediction for a big week because I thought Nico Collins would not play. Nico Collins did not practice at all last week. And now they went ahead and flipped. Nico Collins was a limited participant in practice. Noah Brown was a DNP in practice. So we'll see. But if one of them play and the other one doesn't, then I'm just going to go ahead and call that my prediction.
There you go. The Houston offense at it again. All right. So my Magic 8 Ball says that this might be the week that Tony Pollard actually shows that he's the Tony Pollard that we all drafted him to be, behind Eckler and CMC and Barkley. Everybody took him in the second round. And this week, Dallas is squaring off against the second worst run defense in the league, which would be the Carolina Panthers, giving up a ton of points to opposing teams' running backs. Pollard had his only big game of this year against Arizona, who has an equally bad run defense. Back in week 3, I mean, I'm not saying that this is going to salvage his year and that after this, he's going to just completely take off and be everything that we hoped and thought that drafted him to be. But this is a game where he should flourish. He should have a better chance to be who we drafted him to be this year or this week. So fingers crossed, maybe he'll actually get a touchdown. He's only got 2 on the year. So who knows? But it could happen. It could happen. Guys, that's it. That's our show. We're done. Tyler. Yeah, that was. I'm just so glad to be back. I'm just so happy to be.
We're happy you're back.
Oh, thank
you. And you came back just in time to see the pie bet, and it's and there's a lot of good Packers talk. Wow, we really set you up for this show. This is
right.
Good things.
If you had Tyler while I was gone, I would have been so upset. So
we made sure to take the week off last week so we could save it for when you finally returned because it needed to happen.
Yes, yeah. You're lucky I had to travel for work last week so you could join in the festivities.
Yeah, exactly. Festivities. That's a great term for that. Well, hopefully there are more pie bets in our future here. But guys, if you are see, Tyler's got some leftover pie. I don't know that I would be eating that, but teach their own.
That one wasn't on the floor.
So who cares? Guys, make sure to stay on the channel tonight. The guys over at Fourth and Frames have got a huge treat for you. If you are Friday Night Light fans, they are going to have QB1 Jason Street, aka Scott Porter, on their show tonight. Texas Forever. If you know, you know. Also, make sure to give all of us a follow here. You can find Jorge over at Jorge B. Edwards. You can find Tyler FF Tyler Heil. I am at Stacy_Perez 83. Make sure you are subscribing to us here at Fantasy and Frames over on that YouTube. And guys, we've got so much content for you. We've got Fourth and Frames later on at 9. We've got Shoot the Gap coming up later tonight at 10. Because we have got our the Daily Fixes back Friday nights. Very excited about that. Because we've got so much for you. Got the Waiver Wire show on Tuesdays. And last but not least, we've got the Fantasy and Frames pregame show on Sundays from 9 to noon, getting you ready with all your last minute questions to make sure you win your leagues on Sundays. Guys, it has been a blast hanging out with you guys tonight, and I'll see you next week.